The following program is a special presentation of the Big Ten Network, produced in association with the University of Wisconsin.
He's a winner of the prestigious Caldecott Award for illustration and also has received the Newbery in honor of distinguished writing in children's literature. Who is this guy with the UW ties? We'll meet him next on Wisconsin Reflections. Hi, he has the remarkable ability to craft words and images that resonate with young minds, creating an effect that can last all of their lives. He's a remarkably successful and honored writer in the highly competitive and important arena of children's literature. Kevin Henkes is our guest today. Kevin, welcome. So you grew up in Racine, and very early on, you began to live the writer's life. Even when you were only 19 years old, you were already working on your first book deal, correct?
I was, and I lived the artist life first. I think my earliest memories are of being an artist. I wanted to draw and paint from the time that I can remember.
So the words followed the pictures for you?
They did, and it was because of an English teacher in high school.
Yeah.
I was always considered the class artist. I loved to draw and paint. It's how I identified myself. And I had an English teacher my junior year of high school who said to me once, I wouldn't be surprised if I saw a book with your name on it one day. Wow. And it was huge. It was.
Can I tell you, nothing like expectations for a kid at that age.
No,
you know?
It's amazing. And I was a junior in high school. I was beginning to think about what I might like to do with my life. And I thought, I love to draw and paint. Here's this person who says I'm a great writer. That's when I rediscovered picture books. I thought, I want a job where I can do both of those things. And picture books were the perfect job for me.
And did you find your voice first with children's books, or did you explore other kind of genres of literature before you settled into children's books?
It was definitely children's books, but art, I thought of different things in terms of being an artist, but when I rediscovered picture books, I knew that that was what I wanted. And I grew up loving books, so that was always a very important part of my life.
What books were your formative books?
My very favorite book is a book called Is This You by Ruth Krauss with pictures by Crockett Johnson, and it is essentially a guide in how to make a book. And I still have my copy with my name inscribed in very large, crooked lettering. And I loved it, and I would use that book as a guide to make books.
Right. It's one thing to have a passion, it's another thing to make it a career. To get paid to do it. And you get to live the writer's life, the artist's life here in Madison, which is, you know, hard to do. Publishing is a New York business by and large. How have you managed that?
I love going to New York, and there was a while where I thought I wanted to live there, but I don't need to be there. And I love there's something about being removed from it. So every time I go, and I love to go frequently, it's special and wonderful, but there's something very special about being away from it, where I can just be in my world and do what I love to do most. And there's nothing I love more than being alone in my studio with the door closed and be in my head.
My wife gave me a book one time called Writers and Their Places, and it was the picture of the writing locations of some of the great writers of the 20th century. Describe your artist Garrett, if you would. You know, where do you go, when do you go, and how do you kind of gear up to be productive from a creative standpoint?
I get up when my kids get up for school. They're teenagers. They start at different times. So the minute the second one leaves for school, I head upstairs. It's the third floor of an old house, an attic that has been renovated. It's got nice windows. I feel like I'm up in the trees.
Vista? You have a vista?
I do.
A little treehouse feel?
Yeah, it has a very nice treehouse feel. It's just a big open space with lots and lots of books.
Music when you write and draw?
Music when I draw, not music when I write.
Coffee?
A half a cup downstairs with the kids.
Because, you know, writers and artists have been known to use different things to trigger their artistic responses.
Water.
Water
works for me.
And how long do you work each day?
It depends on what I'm doing.
Right.
If I'm writing, I can't go for more than maybe an hour and a half without taking a break of some sort. If I'm drawing, I can go much longer.
Really? Why is that?
I think I'm more naturally an artist than I am a writer.
Gotcha.
Perhaps. I don't know. There's something about it. I would much rather face an empty sheet of paper knowing that I have to draw on it than to face an empty sheet of paper knowing that I have to write on it.
So you have experienced writer's block?
I don't know if I would call it writer's block. I would call it, I know, I've never, knock wood,
You're all
knock wood for me, had what I think of as writer's block. I've been stuck. I know where I want to go. I'm not sure how to get there.
Right.
I'm a very slow writer, so I might work on a paragraph for, a week.
How do your young readers process pictures and words? Is it the same? Is there a psychology to it different from adult writing?
Well, I think the beauty of the picture book is that it's a combination of words and images.
Right.
I think a great picture book is created in a way in which those two things can't be separated.
Right.
But also, I mean, there's a gap between words and pictures, and I think in a really wonderful book, the brilliant thing is that the listener or the reader makes associations, and those associations may change depending on who they are, what they know, and I think that's the beauty of a really good picture book.
Well, what I'd like to talk about when we come back about the picture books is, do you write them for the children and the parent reading them? Do you write them for a child reading it alone? The actual experience of consuming the book, for lack of a better word, is really interesting, because as a parent, I know that, you spend the first several years with someone on your lap reading aloud, and all of a sudden you're an adult and you're going, boy, this is really a good book. We're going to be right back with award winner Kevin Henkes. Please stay with us. We're in Madison.
This program is a production of the University of Wisconsin-Madison. If you have comments about this broadcast, please email them to programming@uc.wisc.edu.
Where others saw lumber, we recognized a treasure. Where others saw the night, we chose the stars. Where others saw pieces, we unlocked the puzzle that could mean the end of paralysis and cancer. Since 1848, thinkers and achievers at Wisconsin have fearlessly sought ideas that transform the world. Keep on, Wisconsin. Keep on.
Here's a picture book for me. Hi, we're back. We're in Madison with Kevin Henkes, who's an award-winning children's picture book author and illustrator. And we were talking before the break, how do you fashion the images and the words to capture a child's imagination? Do you think of a child of a specific age, in a specific environment when you're writing or conceiving your books?
Well, when I work on a picture book, I do think of the age of the kid that I'm working for, but the main thing is to make it a book that works for me. I know that it's an adult who's going to buy the book.
Right.
But when I'm in my little world creating it, I want to do something that pleases me. And I will make certain choices that a listener and perhaps the parent will never know, but it's the part of book craft that is really important to me. And I'll show you an example.
We have an anatomy of a bunny hop here.
My latest
panels.
book is called Little White Rabbit.
Stand by. Look at this. Just like the Tonight Show. Little White Rabbit. Oh, sorry. Oh my. Sorry. Here we go. Let's hold it up nice to camera 2 here, and we'll hold it steady for a second. Little White Rabbit right here. Available in your local bookstore. So talk about this.
Well, these are the first illustrations of Little White Rabbit as he appears in the book. And when I was crafting the book, because this is a book about a rabbit who hops, I wanted those illustrations, if you took them out of the book and lined them up, to show a hop.
Right.
Now, most listeners or
hop.
readers will never know that, but it's the part of book craft that's really important to me, and it's the part of book craft that I think I love most.
Right.
Making all the elements of the book have some meaning. They're not just there.
Well, and it works on you in a subliminal way.
I hope
when
so.
You do, oh, it has
Maybe.
to. Yeah, absolutely it does. Talk to me about the images and the words you use so that you can capture a child's imagination. Do you find yourself holding back on detail, or do you have so many words per page, or, you know, where, and also what is the age? I guess it varies from book to book, but.
It varies from book to book, and I keep that in mind. If it's a very young book, I think I love very succinct picture books. And the images carry a lot of the weight. I don't have to describe certain things physically because they're often in the pictures. I believe the first line for Little White Rabbit said it was a glorious day, and Little White Rabbit hopped along. I took out, it was a glorious day. I didn't need it. It makes it better. It makes it tighter. Right. And you can see what kind of day it is by looking at the pictures.
Right.
And I think that's one of the advantages of writing and illustrating my own books. I'll often take words out when I'm working on the pictures because I realize I don't need them any longer.
And again, for the audience that you're writing for, I was telling you during break, my son loved Where the Wild Things Are. He's now 25 years old. And I was reading to him one day, and all of a sudden he was reading to me. He had memorized the whole book. Yeah. And it was one of the most remarkable moments of my life because I didn't even know this kid could talk, you know? And all of a sudden, so, yeah. and it has such a profound impact on a child's development to sit and read a book with a parent.
I couldn't agree
it's
more.
Huge.
And I also think there's something about books, picture books, when you're young, if you're exposed to them time and again, they often will sort of creep into one's life and to the family vernacular. And when I hear stories about how my books have done that, I absolutely love it. And it makes being a writer and an illustrator so rewarding.
Right. And there's something about a book. We're in an era of Kindle and iPads, and yet the tactile experience of a book, the kind of paper, the kind of font, the colors, do you lament the fact that it's becoming more digital, or do you view it as that's how it is and maybe there are new opportunities there?
I could go in so many directions. I first should say I'm a Luddite. I type on a typewriter. I write by hand. I think one of the beauties of a picture book, or two of the beauties, are size and shape. And I think some of those characteristics are lost on an e-reader. My book Chrysanthemum is available on an e-reader. I want to keep an open mind, but there is something beautiful about size and shape. A book like Little White Rabbit will lose some of that. Right. I also think it's hard to shoehorn an existing art form into another. And I think maybe in the future there are going to be young people who write and draw and paint who are going to create incredible things made specifically for, you know, the specific device. That may be the future.
The thing that I have experienced as a parent and as a child is there's something irreplaceable about possessing a book, a favorite book, a dog-eared, you know, with, you know, applesauce all over it or whatever it might be. And, you know, there's that little stack of books in every child's room, and it's usually not very neat and organized, but it's their books. It's one of the first things a child possesses as their own.
No, and I think it must be a different feeling. And I don't know personally, but to have your books on your bookshelf and know where they are and have them in the order you want them, or have them under your bed or under your pillow. I think even if you have them in your device, it must be different, but I don't know. And, you know, I want to keep an open mind about it.
When we come back, I want to talk about how your family informs your work, and also what it's like to manage, again, the career from Madison. And we'll be right back. We're in Madison. This is Kevin Henkes. He's won a bunch of awards. Stay with us.
Great People is our campaign for need-based scholarship aid. It's the key to the long-term well-being of the university as a whole.
In 1970, tuition cost about $500.
Today, it's about $9,000.
We don't want UW-Madison to be a university that is deemed to be out of reach.
The Great People Scholarship gives students a chance to succeed in life.
Support the Great People Scholarship. Visit uwgreatpeople.org.
This is Chrysanthemum, published in 1991, the middle years of Kevin's work. And we've got a couple panels showing a darling little white mouse who is the hero of the story, of the tale. How long does it take you to knock out a book?
That's a hard question, and it's one I get asked all the time. Every book is different.
Yeah.
Some come easily. Some I'll begin and I'll put away for a while, and they'll come back.
Yep.
Lately, I've been trying to do one book a year.
Right. And what do you get in the way of notes from your editors? You've been with the same publisher for 20 years, right?
30.
30 years.
30 years.
You look too young to be with someone for 30 years. But your first book was when you were 19, right? Or 20?
It was accepted for publication when I was 19.
And the publisher is?
Green Willow Books, which is now part of HarperCollins.
Okay. And have you reached the status where they don't even give you notes anymore?
No.
So they do give you notes.
Yeah, and I love that. Yeah. I want to be edited.
Right.
I think the goal is to make the best book possible.
Right.
And if I'm living in my little world and totally consumed by it, I sometimes can lose objectivity. So,
yeah.
no.
You need fresh eyes.
I do.
Yeah.
I know. I think everybody probably does.
There's a difference between writing a book and marketing a book. Let's talk about cover design. Is that designed to hook parents or the child with the parent at the bookstore? That sounds callous.
No. For me, it's about pleasing me. Now, more and more, those questions are very much in the forefront of publishing. They weren't when I began. I would often do a jacket sketch, and everyone would say, great. Now, there's much more thinking about those kinds of issues. For me, it's got to please me.
Right.
And I try not to worry about those things too much, although it does creep into my work life.
You seem like a really nice, normal guy. You're a good dad.
Thank you.
Happily married. But obviously you must be able to think in childlike ways. There's a part of your creative consciousness that perhaps is arrested, or you can go back and work from, that other people aren't able to do. What is it in your voice that allows you to speak to that audience?
I don't know. I don't know where it comes from, but it's somewhere in there.
So you're wonderfully innocent, or are you?
I don't think so.
I don't either.
No. No, I don't think so. I don't know what it is. I'm very much drawn to this art form.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure why.
What were the books that you read as a child?
Well, I loved Is This You, one of the picture books. But when I was older, I remember very much loving the artwork of Garth Williams. Mm-hmm. So I would choose my novels. I would choose novels that he had illustrated. Mm-hmm. So I read the Little House books, loved Farmer Boy. And I remember really loving the book Call It Courage by Armstrong Sperry. Mm-hmm. And I read it many, many times. And it's a story of a boy very unlike mine, a boy who goes off on a sailing adventure. He's afraid, very, very fearful. It's an adventure story, boy and a dog, unlike my Wisconsin upbringing. And maybe that's why I loved it. I don't know.
Well, you were able to go somewhere where you had never been. What about the concept of fear in children's books? If you look at Disney movies, Bambi's mother, and the notion of how you create tension in a child's book that is relatable to a child. Do you find yourself thinking about that? Because books do have a beginning, middle, and an end, and sometimes a protagonist and all those sorts of things. Do you think in those formulaic ways, or does the story just kind of come out and it falls into a correct formula?
I usually begin with character and have a character that I love. I often think about that character for a long time before I begin to write. I think the story just sort of begins. I'm not quite sure how creativity works, but I think fear, jealousy, anger, anxiety, all those, whatever we feel as adults, I think we feel as kids. And so it's part of life.
Right.
So whatever feels organic to the character, to the book, goes in.
What is your biggest selling book?
Lily's Purple Plastic Purse.
And why?
I have no idea. I think there must be something about her. She's full of life. She's vibrant. she gets into trouble in a certain way. I think she's a good kid. I've been told by teachers that unlike other female characters, young boys relate to her. I don't know if that's true or not. It's interesting to think
when we come
about.
back, I'd like to talk about young male readers and young female readers, and if that's in, you know, if you're thinking about that as you write as well. Obviously, it has to be a marketing thing, but if you just start by writing a story, you're not thinking in marketing terms at first. You're just thinking of story, which is beautiful. We're going to be right back. This is Kevin Henkes. We're in Madison. We're back in Madison, Wisconsin, on the campuses of the University of Wisconsin-Madison with Kevin Henkes, who has won many, many prestigious awards for his work in children's literature, both for his artistry and his wordsmithing. How's that?
That's good.
So when you sit down to write your story, do you think, oh, this is a young 3-year-old girl reading it, or a young 4-year-old boy? Or do you write your story and then the readership naturally is drawn to it on their own?
Well, if I'm writing a novel, you know,
Right.
it's obviously different than
Right.
a picture book. So on one hand, the art form sort of has its own requirements.
Right.
But when I begin thinking of an idea, you know, it will come to me, and it will either be a picture book idea or a novel idea. And I don't think, oh, I want to write a book about a boy, or oh, I want to write a book about a girl. Something
Or
happened,
a rabbit, or a
rabbit,
mouse.
or a
I mean, because
kitten.
you know, you have this anthropomorphic sort of
Yes.
style, but then there's also your novels are humans.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
that's a nice breadth, actually, I think.
I love going back and forth
Yeah.
from one to the other. And I often find that if I'm in the middle of a novel and I'm having trouble, and I've been doing it for a long time, I long to do a picture book and think it's so much easier and so much more freeing. And if I'm doing a picture book and I've redrawn a particular illustration for the 5th time and it's not working, I think, oh, I wish I were only working with words. It's so much easier. I can limit my life in a particular way. But I do like going back and forth. And there are very, very different art forms.
You have 2 children,
Yes.
2 sons,
A son and a daughter.
son and a daughter. When you took them to Lion King or Little Mermaid or Toy Story, do you watch those movies in a different way because of what you do? Do you watch them and go, oh, I see what they're doing? Or are you able to give up that willing suspension of disbelief and just be a moviegoer? Because digitally animated films now are a monstrous thing, and it's targeted towards, you know, a young audience as your literature is.
No, I think if I go to a movie, if I'm there, I try to look at it and enjoy it just as an adult.
Right. And the one thing I was going to talk to you about too is, if you look at some of the movies or cartoons, they work on 2 levels. They work for the child watching, and they work for the adult who is with the child watching. Do you have that same, do you think that same parallel track works in your books as well?
I think it can, and I'm essentially writing for the child and writing for me.
Right.
I do
So
keep
you
in
keep
mind.
coming back to that. That's beautiful. That, you know.
No, that's important.
That's how you stay true to your story. That's beautiful.
I like to have something in it for an adult, because I know with a young picture book, it will most likely be an adult reading it. I really dislike adult books for kids. I mean, books that really play to adults' knowledge and sense of humor and sophistication. Not saying that kids aren't sophisticated, but I think it's in a different way. I don't mind when there is something for an adult to enjoy, but I don't love it when it seems to me to be more a book for an adult than it is for a kid.
There's another thing about the genre that you work in, picture books, is that children will read your book over and over and over again. You know, when you're 2 years old, you want that same book, you know, every night. You know, I would also say, I know some of my kids, they would watch Little Mermaid or something 28 times too. Why is that about kids, and are you aware of that when you write? And before you answer, we're going to come back to wait for your answer, okay? We'll be right back. We're in Madison. Stay with us. We're back in Madison with Kevin Henkes. Here's his latest book, picture book, Little White Rabbit. He does both the illustrations and the writing. I was just asking you as we went to break, when you write your books, are you aware that children want to read this book over and over again every night at 7:30, and the parents read it to them because that will knock them out? I mean, are you aware, for some reason, children love reading the same book over and over again?
They do, and when I write a picture book, I read it aloud to myself as I'm working again and again and again, because the rhythm has to be exactly right. I think it was E.B. White who talked about the sound words make on paper. And that's what it is. And I think if a kid connects to a book, and who knows why they do or how it works, but I think there is something about wanting it again and again and again. And maybe it is comfortable, it's familiar, they like it.
What medium do you work in when you're doing the illustrations?
Different things. With my mouse books, I use India ink and watercolor paint. For Little White Rabbit, I used acrylic paint for the outline and colored pencil.
And you listen to what kind of music when you're drawing?
I usually listen to classical music. And I have a little radio that I brought with me in 1979.
Still works?
To campus, still works. You just turn on.
Good. Oh, that's good. So it's like a trigger.
Yeah.
Right. What literature, adult literature, do you like to read?
Oh, I love Alice Munro. I love William Trevor. I love William Maxwell. And they're three authors who, William Maxwell is dead, but if Munro or Trevor have a new short story in the New Yorker or a new collection, or William Trevor a new novel, I read it instantly. And the thing about the three of them is that I return to them year after year after year and reread. And
I was just going to ask you that. Are there books that you read?
Yes, and they are so, it's like reading them for the first time, I think, because they are so good at what they do. They leave so many things unsaid. It's a beautiful kind of writing, and I guess they're my favorite.
Any guilty pleasure reading? Pulp Fiction?
I can't think of anything offhand, but let me get back to it.
How have your kids informed your work?
When many people assumed I had kids before I did, given the nature of what I did.
Right.
And then people said, oh, once you become a parent, you're going to have all these new ideas. I didn't. And I think that shows that it comes from within.
Right.
Every now and then, one of them will say something, and it's worked its way into one of my books. But for the most part, they haven't really changed anything. I mean, they've made me look at books that I loved from my childhood and look at them again, reading them to them. I've read things to them that they've chosen that I necessarily wouldn't have. So they've opened my eyes a bit.
Have you thought about doing graphic novels, or have you done graphic novels? To me, that's something that's grown up from a new generation of illustrators and writers that seems consistent with the way you've worked.
I grew up loving comic books.
So did I. I loved comic books.
And I wouldn't say no, but it hasn't been anything that hasn't happened
Hollywood
yet.
has dipped into that trove of art for a lot of films in the last 10 years, which is interesting because there are no new ideas in Hollywood. We'll be right back. We're in Madison, Wisconsin. We're with Kevin Henkes. Please stay with us. We're going to take questions from the audience. On the set, which is cool. Hey, we're in Madison, Wisconsin with acclaimed child picture book writer Kevin Henkes, and we are going to take some questions from the audience, and we have a question right back there. Could you stand and give us your name? Hi.
Hi, Kevin. I'm Michelle. Your name?
Michelle.
I'm asking this question for Christina, who couldn't be here. What advice would you give to a writer who desires to create children's books but has little experience with illustration?
I think if someone wants to be a writer and is not an illustrator, he or she should keep in mind that editors of children's books, editors of picture books, know the art form very well, and they can look at a good picture book text that has no illustrations and know what would work best to make it work. So I think if someone is really a fine picture book writer, it's okay. They don't have to worry about the illustrations. One thing that someone can do is to really understand the framework of a picture book, the craft of it, how many pages a book should be, and could break up their texts into pages to help the editor or whoever it is who would be reading it know that they understand the rhythm of their words. They understand where that writer might want their page breaks to be. And I think that's a really important part about picture book writing. But I don't think they need to worry about not being an illustrator.
Next question. I think we're right over here. Hi, what's your name?
I'm Diane, and I would like to know what's next for you and or your spouse. I know you work together sometimes, and I enjoy that. So, what's coming?
My next book is a novel for middle school kids called Junonia. That will be out this year, and I illustrated it, which is something I haven't done for a while.
What does Junonia, is that?
Junonia is the name of a shell, a seashell.
Ah, okay. I knew
it's a story of a girl who lives in Madison who's taking her annual family vacation in Florida. That comes out in June, I think. And I'm working on a series of books for beginning readers. I have 3 written. The first one is already illustrated. It's called Penny and Her Song. Penny is a new mouse. And the first one will come out in 2012. And my wife, who is an illustrator and a painter, just finished pictures for a book by Helen V. Griffith. The book is called Moonlight, and that will come out in 2012 as well.
Do you have separate studios at home?
We do have separate studios at home.
Do you yell back and forth from
we
Hey,
go
do you have
back and
an
forth.
extra easel or, I'm sorry. Do we have another question? Go ahead. What's your name? Hi.
Hi, my name is Peter.
Peter.
Also a neighbor of Kevin's at some little distance.
I know Peter.
Wow.
For a typical page, does it take longer to illustrate it or to do the text?
Oh, that's a hard question. I guess for a young picture book, ultimately it would take longer to do the picture, just because it takes longer. Even when I know what I want, I do a thumbnail sketch, I do a sketch to size, I'll do a more refined sketch, and then I'll do a piece of finished art. And if the writing is going well, hopefully once I have something clicking and working, you know, a sentence may just come to me and it's done. But it is hard to really determine how much time actually goes into something. Once I told someone it takes, you know, it's taken my whole life to write this book, which I think is probably true.
Absolutely.
True.
We're going to come back and get some more questions from the audience for Kevin, so please stay with us. Hi, we're back in Madison on campus at the UW-Madison with Kevin Henkes, an esteemed children's picture book and novel writer. And we have one more question from the audience. Stan, what's your name?
My name is Jerry.
Hi, Jerry.
And my question is, with your long and successful career as both an author and an illustrator, are there still any goals left that you would like to achieve? Like, do you have anything left on your bucket list?
Well, my bucket list would include just doing what I do. One of the things I love about my job is that each new book is like a whole new world, a whole new job, and I continue to love what I do. And usually when I'm finishing up a book, I slow down, and I hope that I get another idea, and I long for it more than anything else in the world. And I really think working on books is an anchor in my life, and it's an anchor that I love, and my life is much more enjoyable. I think my life for my family is much more enjoyable when I have that anchor in my life. So I just hope that I can keep doing what I do.
How did you make your way to Madison and the UW? You studied at the UW for a couple of years. How did that inform your work and your career?
Well, I grew up in Racine.
Right.
And Wisconsin has a history of, has created some wonderful children's book writers and illustrators. Nancy Eckel and Burkert studied here. Ellen Raskin was here. And I chose Madison because of that, and because of the Cooperative Children's Book Center, which is in Helen C. White Hall.
Right.
It's a non-circulating library where children's books are kept, and I loved it. And when I came to Madison from Racine, I felt as if the world had cracked open.
Right.
I absolutely fell in love with Madison.
Where'd you hang out when you were a student?
I loved hanging out by the lakes. When I applied for housing late, so I was in temporary housing down near the Lakeshore dorms. I absolutely loved it. And I hung out at the Cooperative Children's Book Center more than any place else. I mean, I learned my craft there.
So when were you at Wisconsin? What
I came in the fall of '79.
Okay.
Finished a year, went to New York the summer between my freshman and sophomore years, got a contract for my first book, took the fall semester sophomore year off to do the artwork for the book, came back, and I kept going back and forth, taking a semester off, going back to school for many years. I think I was a second semester junior when I finally
Has it occurred
quit.
to you that you're lucky that you knew what you wanted to do?
It absolutely has occurred to me. I think I was very lucky in so many ways. I was lucky that I went to New York when I did. I was lucky that my parents let me go to New York when I did. I was lucky that I had the guts to do it, I think. I think I had more, whatever it is, it took to do that at age 19 than I do at age 50.
But you know, one sign of someone once told me about being really good at anything is you have to get obsessed and stay obsessed. And sometimes an obsession isn't a bad thing. It's a good thing. It seems to me that at a very early age, you were just drawn to illustrating and writing picture books, that you found your voice.
I did. And I wanted to go to New York because that's where I thought, I wanted a publisher in New York. I picked my publisher. I picked who I thought would be best for me because I thought they were, did the best.
Now, do you have a long-term deal with your publisher, or is it a per book deal, or how does this? I don't want to seem coarse, but part of being an artist is commoditizing your talent, making a living so you can have a studio in your home and whatever it might be. The business part of it is sometimes a stumbling block for artists.
It can be.
Any advice or perspective on the business part of it?
Well, each book is a separate contract.
Okay.
When I began my...
So you don't have a 5-book deal?
No, I could. I've never wanted to. It would feel like a monkey on my back.
Right.
My editor, Susan Hirschman, who's now retired.
You haven't done any books with monkeys, though, so...
I have not. Okay. But she really created an environment in which I think she was a mentor. I think...
Susan Hirschman is the
She was
publisher?
the founder of Green Willow Books.
So you don't deal with them with an agent or anything? You just deal directly?
I don't have an agent. My current editor is Virginia Duncan. Susan has retired. But it's the same feeling. It's very much a feeling in which I didn't want to go anyplace
else. Collaborative?
Very collaborative. There's a great sense of loyalty. I've only been published by one publisher. I've only had these 2 editors in my life. I've only had 2 art directors in 30 years.
Yeah.
I love that about it.
Right.
It feels very...
So not a lot of drama, just art.
No.
Yeah. Great. We're going to be right back. Stay with us. We're in Madison, and this is Kevin Henkes.
This program is a production of the University of Wisconsin-Madison. If you have comments about this broadcast, please email them to programming@uc.wisc.edu.
Hi, we're back in Madison with Kevin Henkes, who's won the Caldecott and the Newbery for children's literature and illustration. We were just talking in the break, having dabbled in writing myself. I asked you, do you ever get to that point where you get in the zone where you're drawing or writing and you're so immersed in your story and your craft and what you're doing that you're unaware of the passage of time, that it's all of a sudden, and then you wake up as if out of a trance?
Absolutely, and that's the best. And I think of it almost like meditation. It's wonderful to get to that place.
Well, you're in your own story, kind of, aren't you? I mean,
yeah,
you're in the world of your story.
I think that's true. I think that's true.
How do you get to that? A lot of artists have, a fascinating read is, what rituals do artists go through to try to get into that creative zone? Because it's not always a slam dunk that you're going to get there. Life gets in the way of art all the time.
Yeah.
That's what I was talking about, are you at the same place? Do you do the same thing? Do you do it at the same time? Are there certain things that touchstones that you hit so you can get into that zone, or at least increase the odds that you get in the zone?
I think I used to have more of that, but having children has sort of changed that. So now when they go to school, I go up. And just being in my space hopefully gets me into that other space. And sometimes it's hard because if one waited for the inspiration to strike, one may never go there. So
are there times of the year that you're more productive than others?
I find
it's a seasonal nature.
It is. I find that I'm very much on the school schedule, and there were all those years where I was not in school myself. And before I had children who were in school, I still get that.
So it was
hit
kind of
in
imprinted,
my stomach at the end of summer, and then click into something. No, I'm definitely on the school schedule.
And does your wife give your wife's name is Laura, and does she give you notes? Do you say, honey, can you come in here and take a look at this because I think it's not good?
Oh, I read to her constantly.
Oh, good. How great is that?
It's wonderful. She's a great editor. I think she probably gets tired of it because if I'm working on a novel, I will knock on her studio door several times a day and say, can I read you this?
What an interesting life, if you think about it.
Yeah.
When you want to get away from what you do, what do you do?
Oh.
You know what I mean? Where you need a break from illustrating, a break from writing, a break from thinking about children's books or in a childlike way. What do you do?
I like to run. I don't run as often as I used to, so I walk.
None of us do, Kevin.
I read. If I'm writing, I tend to not read as much because I don't want anything else to enter into my writing. But if I'm illustrating, I read like mad.
I want to bring up an uncomfortable topic. I love my Kindle. And yet I have found that authors, by and large, don't like the Kindle and are lukewarm about those who actually own them. But can I just say, it's the biggest problem for me for reading is getting to a bookstore. And now it's right there and you can browse and everything. Do you have a Kindle?
I don't.
I didn't think you did.
I don't have a cell phone. I don't, but I know people who love them, and I think it's wonderful. I know people who love books, but love having their Kindle on vacation, love them on airplanes.
I had a buddy of mine, I flew over to Ireland with my family, and my buddy said, well, a Kindle, that's just, you're an awful person. And I said, I can get on a plane with 40 books in my hand. What's wrong with that? We're in Madison. This has been Kevin Henkes. Thank you so much for joining us, Kev.
Welcome.
Great having you. Hope to see you around town.
All right.
He actually lives in the neighborhood that I grew up in, which is beautiful. So thanks to Kevin. Thanks to all of you. Stay afterwards. You can ask more questions because this is a university campus, and we learn full time. Thanks for joining us on Wisconsin.
The preceding program was produced by the University of Wisconsin in association with the Big Ten Network.